Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today's webinar, Solutions for the 2G Sunset, How to Future-Proof Your Alarm Communications Against a Changing Technology Landscape. My name is Jason Stegent, and I will be your moderator for today's presentation. And just some general housekeeping notes before we get started. You have the ability to personalize your webcast experience. If you look at your screen, you'll see some windows that are up. You can min-max all of those windows. Some of the folks that attend our webinars, if the slide deck's not big enough for them, for instance, they maximize it so they can view it in full screen mode. So you definitely have some options there. In terms of audio, there's no dial-in for attendees. You're going to be hearing this through your computer speakers. If the audio's not loud enough for you, be sure that the volume on your PC is up. Make sure that the volume on the media player is up. That's under the slide deck. Or if you're in a cubicle-based environment, headphones are recommended. But there is no dial-in for attendees. You'll see a field where you can submit your questions. We want you guys to be truly engaged and touching your keyboard as much as possible. If you have any questions for today's presenters, send those in. We'll answer as many as possible as we can at the end of the presentation. You'll also see a series of icons at the bottom of the screen. One of those is a resource center. There are two key pieces of content that you can download there. One is today's slide deck. Feel free to download it. And the other is the ipDatatel sales brochure. And then finally, we are recording today's presentation. It'll be available on demand within 24 hours. We're going to send all attendees, all registrants, an email on how they can access the on-demand version. All right, so why are we here? So let's focus on that first and foremost before we get into the meat of the presentation. We're here because alarm dealers face a changing technology landscape. Just to support that, AT&T has announced plans to sunset its 2G technology as it shifts spectrum capacity to its 3G and 4G networks. The planned shutdown date is January 1st, 2017, so that'll be here before we know it. And new technologies are being introduced every day, and we're going to cover all that with today's presenter. Speaking of which, today's presenter is Ryan McConnell. I've known Ryan for a long time. He's going to do a great job. He's a perfect fit for this. Ryan joined ipDatatel in 2009, was actually the company's first employee. He's currently the Director of Business Development. He's got over 10 years of experience in the security space. He's really focused on regional, super regional, and national programs. But his true focus, he really remains focused on working with dealer partners to help them become more efficient by reducing costs, reducing unnecessary service calls, and ultimately lowering customer attrition at the same time. So he's going to be a perfect fit to speak on this 2G sunset today. So with that being said, Ryan, we're going to get into it here. Dealers are facing a constantly changing technology landscape, as I mentioned earlier. Let's talk a little bit about the challenges.
Sure. Well, first off, Jason, thank you very much for being our moderator today. Also want to thank all of our listeners for participating today as we really want to provide some great information for you to take back. But as we look at this technology timeline, there are a few items to take a closer look at. Quite some time ago, the AMPS conversion completely puzzled the industry and absolutely devastated some security companies. Right now, security companies are stuck in a crazy loop of changes with technology. Could possibly be the biggest obstacle that we've ever experienced. It's estimated that nearly 10 million 2G radios originally needed to be replaced. Some have been proactive, which is great, others not so much. But these new technologies are being introduced every day, from 3G to 4G to LTE. And the only one that we see that continues to grow and become more reliable and more stable is the Internet.
And Ryan, let's start right from the beginning. You say that technology is in a transition stage currently. Can you elaborate on that a little bit for the audience?
Sure, Jason. Technology is driving changes. The voice over IP failure rates are ridiculously high. There are more and more points of failure. The failure of signals to central stations is the result of internet, phone, and cable providers trying to increase profits in a very demanding world. So without notice, POTS lines are disconnected, and voice over IP is kind of that bundled replacement. With the changes comes choices. Analog is dead. You really should not be connecting any security systems via phone line because they will sunset very, very soon. Cellular technologies are being sunset to make way for the latest and greatest, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the presentation. But there's no guarantee. The only, and I mean the only solution that is guaranteed is IP. But however, technology is creating massive opportunities at the same time. Consumers are connected, knowledgeable, and demanding. The Internet of Things, the IoT, is the way of the future. Connecting all devices in the home or business with one controller, which would be the phone, is where we're headed. So Internet makes all of that possible, and it's affordable for the consumer.
So our next slide here, Ryan, shows us an unbalanced communications mix. Does that concern you?
Absolutely. It's absolutely insane. But again, it could be viewed as an opportunity. I'm going to break this down with some statistics on where we are, where the security industry is right now, and where we're headed. Right now, about 64% of existing systems that are professionally monitored are still using a POTS line, a generic phone line. 36% of new installs that are connected to the POTS lines, which is trending down quickly. However, the risk is that alarm dealers are still installing 36% of the time. So let me clarify, that's like installing a 2G radio today just to get a monitoring contract, knowing full well that this technology is going away quickly. So let's move on to cellular. 24.5% of existing alarm systems are connected to a cell radio. 70% of those radios are 2G and will need to be replaced before the end of 2016, as we kind of have a hard stop on January 1st of 2017 for 2G technology. 49% of new installations are receiving a cellular connection. Again, there are no guarantees on any cellular technology. Verizon CDMA and the LTE platform, for instance, have the greatest technology of anything available in the security space right now. If we look at kind of the endpoint, now only 6.5% of new installations are connected to IP. The crazy part about it is that some studies show that the Internet is 2% more reliable than combined cellular technologies. I mean, it's wild. This is the only, and I repeat, only technology without a sunset. I really don't see Internet protocols being changed out for what is currently being used. The technology just continues to become more robust, faster, more reliable, and more flexible.
Ryan, can you discuss the differences in communications choices currently available for dealers? So let's start with the phone lines.
Sure. Well, if you look at phone lines, right now, nearly 9,000 people in the United States each day are being switched from POTS lines, with or without knowledge of doing so. So, for example, if AT&T comes to your house to add cable service and you accept, let's say, a UVerse bundle that includes a phone line, that line is going to be voice over IP, most likely. So therefore, PSTN is not always on a copper switch network. Once a consumer is switched to voice over IP, the risk drastically increases.
Ryan, why does cellular technology seem to be in a constant state of flux, especially as it pertains to AT&T?
So as we have discussed IP throughout this webinar, did you know that cellular does rely on IP is the real question. And once it hits the carrier's network, it's really all Internet from there. The problem is that cellular towers are not always available, and they're not always more reliable. But to dig a little deeper, here's why cellular technology sunsets, and probably the simplest explanation. Take a 10-lane highway, for example, comprised of AT&T and Verizon bandwidth. AT&T only owns 2 lanes of that highway, which is the reason they have had to sunset 2G, and will continue to sunset other technologies. 3G, for instance, it's on the horizon. There's been a big marketing campaign done with many manufacturers around 4G, But the fact is that that's simply a marketing ploy. It's really only 3.5G. It's not LTE. So basically, it's just a way for manufacturers tied to contracts with AT&T to hold up their end of the deal. So therefore, AT&T would be the wrong choice if you're using cellular. Verizon, on the other hand, owns 8 lanes of that highway, 8 lanes of spectrum. Therefore, they can continue to upgrade and add networks without a hard sunset on technologies.
So, Ryan, let's talk about IP. Will IP ever sunset?
It's very clear that IP is the future. I think if you look at the camera industry within security 10 years ago, it was all about analog cameras. Now, almost everyone is using IP-based cameras, so there's a real future with IP. The fact is it's reliable statistically across the United States. It is much faster. Technology has really made it easy to install these products with little or no knowledge of IP configurations. So my answer is IP is not going anywhere.
Ryan, can you discuss alarm transmission and the benefits of dual path?
Yes, in regards to dual path, let's hit on cellular first. Transmissions over cell, if you look at it, are really only cellular to the first tower. And from there, it's all IP. There's less supervision on cellular, some less than once per day. And some manufacturers assume that the signal arrived at the central station correctly. That just seems unfair to me. That's like saying I gave a random guy $1 million to take to the bank for me because he said I could trust him. ipDatatel, on the other hand, is one of the only manufacturers and service providers to complete the kiss-off all the way back to the panel. The downside to cellular is really more on the financial perspective side, and that's just that it's expensive, both for the services and for the chips that go on the board. Internet, on the other hand, is much more affordable, has much more guarantee all the way around. The transmission of the alarm signal is IP all the way to the central station. Packets are delivered to a network operations center with multiple connections. And supervision occurs every 18 to 90 seconds and notifies upon outage. So if you look at dual path communications, you have the best of both worlds, and that's that the customer expects cellular, or maybe the alarm person, the security salesperson expects a cellular connection. But if you combine the two technologies of cellular and IP, you really take a belt and suspenders approach. The security industry has always been comfortable with two-path communication. Embrace it.
So, Ryan, what is the right communication selection for security professionals out there today?
Dual path all day. Alarm companies have been using dual path for years. We believe in redundancy, such as battery backup. For the longest time, we used phone lines with a cellular backup. What's happened is internet has become your new phone line with a lot less risk. The likelihood of someone cutting the connection to the internet is low, although it is a possibility. But most recently, I was actually in a meeting with a large company based in the Northeast, and the gentleman that I was speaking with has been in the industry over 40 years. His company has about 70,000 accounts. I asked him, how many times in your 40 years has a thief cut the phone line of one of your customers? He said, Ryan, you're right. I know where you're going with this. The answer is 2 occasions, over 25 years ago. The guys that burglarize these homes are mostly unskilled. They commit random acts like this and really are so scared to be there. They only have their eyes on a TV or a game console inside your home or business, and they don't even know where the internet or phone line connects to the residence. So while we can never make a statement that this is impossible, there are many more concerns when running a security business.
All right, great. Thanks, Ryan. So I'm going to take over this slide just for a few seconds before I hand it back over to you. We're going to talk about steps to the future. But before I do that, just a general reminder to our audience out there, if you have any questions for Ryan, send them in. We want you guys touching your keyboard. We want you engaged. If you need a little bit more clarification on anything that Ryan has covered thus far, send in those questions. He'll be happy to answer all of them. Like I said, we've got some good ones that have come in thus far. We'll take more if you've got them, so send them on in. All right, so steps to the future, to touch on some of the things that Ryan has talked about. First, stop installing analog. It's risky. Analog is going to sunset. Second, learn to love IP. More and more devices are connected to the internet every day. Third, integrate for a dual-pass solution with cellular. Think of it like a belt and suspenders, like Ryan said. Cover all of your bases. And then finally, fourth, future-proof your alarm communications. Dual-path or IP are your solutions. So Ryan, let's talk about ipDatatel for a second for our audience. Why does it exist?
Well, ipDatatel, it's been one of the greatest things that's happened in my life, that's for sure. From day one, I've believed in the leadership here, the technology, and really the purpose behind our existence. IP is not only in our company name, but it's in our DNA. We did what some would consider crazy. We started with IP, and then we adopted cellular after a few years. The company was created to solve the issue of phone lines disappearing or switching to VoIP. Never knew where we would be or how big it would get. It was almost a wouldn't it be cool if. Well, it took 2 years, but with an exceptional understanding of what it takes to grow and maintain a dealership of security, a central station, and also an internet service provider, the inner workings, if you will, we felt like we had something really, really great to provide to the security industry. We didn't want our customers to ever have to worry about communications ever again. From day one, ipDatatel has been lightning fast with a range of hardwired and Wi-Fi-based internet products, the best cellular selection. So with super fast transmissions and responsiveness to the app along with critical supervision, it just makes the most sense. Again, IP has 2% more uptime than cellular across the board.
Pretty compelling reasons, Ryan. So with that being said, let's discuss your best solution for the 2G sunset.
The best solution, bar none, hands down, without any competition from any competitors, that helps you save a ton of cash. Let me introduce you to the BAT CDMA. It's a dual-path cellular communicator with hardwired internet or Wi-Fi internet connectivity, and that's all backed by Verizon CDMA. And although if internet is unavailable at the time, the device will auto-detect and only run on cellular. There's no special programming you have to do. The device will auto-detect the type of panel you're using, which allows remote programming from the virtual keypad and the ability to upload and download. It truly allows you, the dealer, to remotely service or update an account without rolling a truck. That's our value proposition. Key bus connection and key switch connection are available on the same board, which helps you reduce your inventory and provide the ability to use ipDatatel as your sole source for alarm communications. And also, all the devices are pre-provisioned on the Verizon CDMA network, which is very important. It allows you to save time and not have to worry about connecting to the cell carrier once you're already out on the customer's site. And all these devices are firmware upgradable as well. The upgrade process is automatic and does not require the security company to perform any task.
All right, Ryan, great presentation as always. I mentioned we're going to handle the Q&A now. Had a lot of questions coming in from the audience, so we're going to start tackling those. It's not too late to send in your questions. If you have any questions, send them on in to us. We'll address as many as possible. We don't want to go over 8 to 10 minutes for this Q&A, so let's get right into them. This first one is from John. Ryan, this is for you, obviously. John wants to know, Ryan, do you think any cellular technology is safe? Please discuss AT&T versus Verizon.
Perfect. Well, that's a good question. Let me start by saying no one can guarantee any cellular technology as it sits today. Companies like ipDatatel that provide services, it's our responsibility to provide products that really offer the most longevity. Hands down, the best selection for cellular is Verizon. CDMA and LTE are currently said to be the longest lasting. AT&T doesn't own enough bandwidth to produce a safe solution. And I guess my real advice here is remember IP is the only future-proof solution out there.
Great. This next one is from Shelby. Ryan, Shelby wants to know, is there any special programming required when using a dual-path solution?
As it relates to ipDatatel, there's no special programming at all. The device auto-detects all connection types. So if you, for instance, hook up the IP connection and cellular backs it up, and one day you walk up and unplug the IP connection, it will automatically switch over to cellular in just a few seconds. So the device does auto-detect all of those connection types, from IP and cell to even the type of panel that it's connected to.
Okay. We've got a couple more. If anybody has any more questions, I think we got a total of 4 or 5. If anybody has any more, send them in. This one is from Dave. Again, Dave wants to know, Ryan, are there Wi-Fi versions of ipDatatel devices?
Absolutely, and I actually know Dave personally. So yes, Dave, we do have Wi-Fi versions of ipDatatel devices. Wi-Fi connections include WPS for easy access, static and DHCP capabilities when connecting to the internet.
Okay, great. And right now we're going to hit one more, so if anybody has any questions, like I said, send them on in. But this last one is going to be from Simona. Ryan, Simona wants to know, how long do we have for sunset of POTS lines, and should we stop installing systems on POTS?
So 2017 is kind of the first phase of the sunset, and that will probably continue on for a couple years after that. As it sits right now, you really should not be installing POTS currently. If you were on the last webinar and even parts of this one, that's probably the worst thing that you could do right now. You should be replacing these quickly. Have a plan developed to get this project completed immediately. Think of this as an opportunity to upsell and create a sticky customer. These customers that are connected to POTS lines currently don't have any interactive services, whether it's notifications or open and close or control of their security system. None of that exists as it sits today. So offer them these services they never had and save them money on a phone line and create that long-lasting relationship with your security company.
Awesome. Well, we don't have any questions left, Ryan, but we got a lot of great jobs and great presentations, so it sounds like we kept this short and sweet, kept it under 30 minutes actually, and but it sounds like our audience got a lot of value out of it. We had a good audience today. I just want to let everybody know some housekeeping notes on the back end. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we are recording today's session. It's been recorded. You'll see an email from us within the next 24 hours on how to access this content on demand, and reference anything you learned today. If you want to share it with your network, then obviously feel free to do that. The more people that see this, the better. We're also going to be sending out a survey. We want to make sure that the webinars that we're hosting, the content that we're providing within these webinar environments are things that you guys are getting a lot of value out of, and we want to make sure that we're driving value for every webinar and that it's well worth your time. So be on the lookout for that really brief survey. We'd appreciate your feedback, and we want to keep making these bigger and better for y'all. Before I go, Ryan, we actually had one more question from Rolando. You okay to take it? We good on time?
Absolutely.
Okay. Rolando wants you to know, how is ipDatatel different from Uplink, for example?
Good question, Rolando. I appreciate that. I think the biggest thing that sets us apart, as I mentioned before, the products that we have are key-bus connected. They allow for remote servicing and uploading and downloading. And really the keypad that they have on the app will look exactly like it does in their home. Uplink's really just a simple, basic technology. It's a tip and ring only, and maybe key switch arming and disarming with an open zone, which is a very complex process. All technicians know how to install a keypad and plug a keypad into the panel. So those are really, really, really simple ways that we differ from Uplink. That's kind of where I would leave that In addition to Cellular Technology, we have chosen Verizon CDMA, and we're going to be proceeding with the LTE platform as well. So Uplink's a little bit behind the time.
Awesome. And so we're going to cut it off there, Ryan. Any other questions for Ryan, you can reach out to him directly. Call ipDatatel, email Ryan directly. He'll answer any questions you have. Remember, it's on demand. You'll see that email within the next 24 hours. We're going to send a survey as well. We want to make sure that we're delivering value every step of the way for folks that attend our webinars. So be on the lookout for that survey, and do us a little small favor and fill that out for us because we really take your feedback into account. So we're going to wrap it up. Ryan, I enjoyed it as always. Let's do it again soon.
Yes, thank you, Jason, and thank you to all our listeners today. We really appreciate it. Give us a call. We'd love to increase our business with you or gain your business.
Fantastic. Everybody have a great rest of the week. We'll talk to everyone soon. Bye-bye.